We'll do one more example. Let's talk about the conditional expectation of IQ given sex. The conditional expectation of IQ given sex is 100 if sex equals female, and it's 100 if sex equals male. Doesn't matter if you're male or female, people on average get a 100 on their IQ test. So the unconditional expectation of IQ is always going to be 100. It doesn't matter how many males or females are in the population, any weighted average of 100 and 100 is going to be 100, right? And so this example shows us something really important about conditional expectations, especially for econometrics, which is, I'll call this the conditional expectations rule. If the conditional expectation of something is a constant, we'll just wait for me to write this out. If the conditional expectation of something is a constant, then the unconditional expectation is always going to be that same constant. Will be that same constant. So that's exactly what we saw here, right? The conditional expectation of IQ given sex is a constant. It's 100 either way, and so the unconditional expectation was that same constant. Makes sense, right? So this will be really important in our proof of the unbiasedness of OLS. And I always want you to keep this example in mind here, that here, the conditional expectation of height given sex was not a constant. And so the unconditional expectation was, it depended on how many males or females were in the population, and the 66.5 was not either one of these numbers necessarily. But if the conditional expectation is a constant, then you already know the unconditional expectation, that's that same constant. And if you Google stuff about econometrics, this will come up. This idea is from something called the law of iterated expectations, which is that the expectation of some random variable x is the expectation of the conditional expectation of x given some variable z. And that's exactly what we did. We already understood it intuitively here, that you could take these conditional expectations and find out what the overall, the unconditional expectation of this random variable by, looking at the weights of how many people are in the population. So we already understood it intuitively here. Here's the math. I think the math is not that intuitive, or at least looking at this formula, it's not that intuitive. I think this is intuitive. I think these examples are pretty good. So it'll work perfectly fine to just remember this IQ example and remember this thing.